Welcome into Hockey Sense, everybody. Brought to you by First Community. Great to have you with us. As always, I'm Andy Strickland. Fun show for you here today as we kind of recap the Four Nations tournament. Big shout out to Canada, all the Canadians out there listening. Congratulations. What a tournament. Listen, I'll be the first to admit I didn't know what to expect coming into the Four Nations. Would the players really be into it? And listen, we got our answer. Unequivocally, yes, they were into it, but I think a lot of it had to do with the way the Tkachuks played. They brought everybody else into the fight with them. They just completely increased the level of intensity that, to be honest with you, I don't think some players were ready for. They certainly weren't expecting it, and it took certain guys a few games to really get caught up to speed from a intensity standpoint. The way the Tkachuks approached this was just incredible, and there's other players too. JT Miller, obviously, don't forget that he got in a fight in that game, and he obviously played with a lot of intensity. The way the goaltending, played out on both the American and the U.S., or excuse me, the Canadian side, specifically the Canadian with Jordan Binnington. Everyone was questioning Jordan Binnington and the Canadian goaltending. And listen, I get it to an extent. I mean, when you look at the star power the Americans had, three deep on their roster, starting with Connor Hellebuck, who is considered by most to be the best goaltender on the planet right now. They had Jake Ottinger. You had Jeremy Swayman, who was the third goaltender, who obviously has had a lot of success in the NHL. Thatcher Demko is another American who's been hurt the last year or so he wasn't even really in the picture. But if he was healthy, there's a good chance that we see him playing in the tournament. Ottinger did get a start in the game against Sweden, which Team USA lost. They ended up losing their last couple of games here in the tournament after getting off to such a great start. But Jordan Binnington will go down as one of the best big game goaltenders that we've seen in quite some time. I mean, this just adds to his resume, and this guy has done that in the past. You look at his numbers in the Memorial Cup, going back to his days playing with Owen Sound in the OHL. He put up great numbers. You look at what he did, obviously, in the Stanley Cup final and his entire run up to the playoffs that year to get the Blues to the playoffs and then obviously ultimately win the Stanley Cup. But, in this particular game, this will go down as one of Jordan Binnington's greatest performances that we've ever seen. He should have been player of the game. And listen, I get it. Connor McDavid, he gets the overtime winner. And I'm sure a lot of people were just voting based on whoever got the overtime winner was going to be considered the player of the game. But I thought Jordan Binnington certainly deserved it. He was the player of the game. I mean, the save that he made with his glove hand in overtime on Brady Tkachuk will go down. You'll see that highlight forever, and that'll never go away. He made some other incredible saves on Austin Matthews, two of which were right in front, point-blank range, one off a face-off where it was deflected, and he was still able to make an impressive glove save. So I was happy to see Jordan Binnington rise to the occasion, but I'm not surprised to see him do that. That's who he is. He is a big-game goaltender, and like I said, he'll go down as one of the best big-game goaltenders of his generation. And I think he solidified his spot now, moving into next season in the Olympics. He will be on the Canadian roster. Now, whether or not he's going to be the number one guy, I guess remains to be seen. We'll see if somebody else really steps up and takes that from him. And the fact that Binnington won't play in the playoffs this year, does that hurt him? I don't know if it hurts him, but you'd like to see him get another crack at a playoff run here in St. Louis. But I will say this too, and I don't want to open up any crazy talk here, okay? But, in the event that the Blues ever want to trade Jordan Binnington, and when you don't make the playoffs for 3 consecutive seasons, these are the type of conversations you tend to have. That's why people are bringing up names like Braden Shen, their captain. Justin Falk's name has been thrown out there by some different people. You look to maybe change up the roster a little bit, and I would not trade Jordan Binnington. I think he's proven that he's one of the best goaltenders in the world. I always say this about Jordan Binnington. No one really agrees with me, specifically the Canadian media, which I think they'll have a little bit of a change of heart now. But I've always said, when I do a lot of these national interviews and talk to people on NHL Network and whatnot, and they ask me about Jordan Binnington, I always say, hey, when he's on his game, he is a top 10 goaltender in the NHL, hands down. And this is what I mean. When he's on his game, man, this guy is so locked in, so competitive, and he just rises to the occasion. So we saw that last night for Canada. So a big shout out to Canada. Congratulations. Hellebuck, he was fine. made, all the saves that he needed to make. That's a tough one on Connor McDavid's game-winning goal. I mean, this guy's standing by himself in the slot, no one even close to him. There was an icing prior to that led to the faceoff. Austin Matthews loses the faceoff. Then he loses his guy. He's got to stay with McDavid there. Loses sight of McDavid. McDavid gets lost. He finds himself wide open and, makes a beautiful shot. Nothing really Hellebuck could have done there. Nothing Hellebuck could have done really on the first goal either. The Nathan MacKinnon goal. I took a lot of heat because no one understood what the hell I was saying on Twitter when, going into the game, all the analysis I kept hearing about was, Jordan Binnington has a tendency to let in soft goals, blah, blah, blah. He's let in soft goals the entire tournament. All this rhetoric that you hear. And I just said, all the talk about Jordan Binnington letting in the soft goals, but it's Connor Hellebuck who allowed the first goal of the game. And I called it a relatively harmless shot from Nathan MacKinnon. And the only reason why I call it harmless, and I'm not calling it a soft goal, I mean, it went through several layers of bodies. There's no way Hellebuck could have picked that up. He didn't see the puck. He was screened. So I'm not going to be critical of how he played it. But typically when you just spin and throw the puck on net, which is what Nathan MacKinnon did, he just threw the puck on net, hoping to get a bounce, maybe a deflection, maybe a rebound, and, you get a second chance on it. But he just threw the puck on net. Typically, a shot like that, you don't want to see that go in if you're Canada, and they typically get stopped. But I wasn't even referring to that. All I'm saying is it's interesting. It was Connor Hellebuck who allows the first goal, not Jordan Binnington. I mean, it wasn't a great goal. Now the Sam Bennett shot right under the bar, beautiful pass from Mitch Marner on Bennett's goal to tie it up. That's a beautiful shot. So really nothing Connor Hellebuck could have done on that one either. The two goals that Binnington gave up in regulation, one was a play from Austin Matthews behind the net to Brady Tkachuk. I don't think he was intending to make the pass. The puck actually rolled off of Matthews' stick, but, Brady Tkachuk, that is, just used his size and strength in that situation to get the puck across the goal line, and it beat Jordan Binnington. Not a great goal, but again, not a terrible one either. The second one, the rebound for Jake Sanderson, goes through the 5-hole of Binnington. Again, I can't call that a soft goal. There's a lot of traffic and a lot of chaos, a lot of scrambling going on in front of him. But again, Jake Sanderson in the slot, he's able to find the puck and put it home past Jordan Binnington. So those were the goals in the game in regulation before we got to overtime. It's always interesting to see how players are going to perform. I got to give Mitch Marner a shout out. He had a couple of nice plays in the game, 2 assists in the game. He'd been quiet throughout the tournament. I know he scored the overtime winner against Sweden, but outside of that 3-on-3 rush, he really hadn't noticed a whole lot of Mitch Marner, the star from the Toronto Maple Leafs. So it was good to see him come through. He looked good the entire game. Coaching staff made a switch with he and Mark Stone, got him up there playing with McDavid, looked good with McDavid. There were stretches during the game I didn't even know if McDavid was playing. I didn't even notice him, which I don't think we've ever seen. I mean, to give you an idea of how good the talent is on the ice, when you watch McDavid play in an NHL game, or you watch Nathan MacKinnon play in an NHL game, how many end-to-end rushes do you see these guys make where they're just galloping? I mean, literally galloping through the neutral zone, and they look like they're going 3 times the speed as everybody else. Now, you just didn't see that. I mean, these games were played pretty tight. I don't think the overtime was played nearly as tight as what you would typically see in a Stanley Cup playoff overtime game. I will say that. I thought both sides were exchanging chances. Both sides had some pretty good looks that, you typically don't see in overtime because the game is played so tight when you look at an NHL overtime. But you get all the skill out there. Everybody wants to be the hero. Everyone's capable of being the hero, and everyone wants to make plays. So I'm not going to sit here and say they cheated by, creating chances for themselves, blowing the zone a little bit early, being on the wrong side of the puck. You don't see a whole lot of that, but the game was a little bit loose in comparison to what you would typically see in regulation, or during the playoffs or during the regular season, in an NHL game. I thought Austin Matthews was good in terms of where he had been throughout the course of the tournament. He makes some great plays defensively. I know some people just don't want to hear that because he's considered to be the best goal scorer in the game, but he really does understand how to play the two-way game. I mean, it's impressive to watch him do that. He breaks up more plays. He's got a great stick. And the fact that he was willing to put in that type of effort and not allow himself to get frustrated with the lack of scoring, there's something to be said for that. I didn't love he and Jack Hughes together. Maybe it made sense coming into the tournament, but they made the switch. They actually put Austin Matthews with Brady and Matthew, and just Matthew Tkachuk just couldn't go. That's why the Olympics will be a little bit different. I know every country's dealing with injuries. I mean, you look at Finland, for example, no Mira Heiskanen. They didn't have Hakanpää. They didn't have Ristolainen. I mean, their defense is completely decimated, and they've got some really good forwards. So I think they're going to be a little bit more of a handful come the Olympics if they get fully healthy. But, you look at Team USA, no Quinn Hughes. I mean, what a difference maker he is. He would have made a huge difference. I'm not going to sit here and say they would have won the tournament, but he would have made a big difference. Anyone who disagrees with me knows that that's foolish talk. Not having Charlie McAvoy in the championship game is a big difference. He is a difference maker. I thought it was emotional to see him call out the starting lineups in the locker room. It looked like he started getting emotional as he put his head into the arms of Brady Tkachuk, and the cameras kind of went away. I wanted to see the rest of that. But it sucks for him, man. This guy wants to play, and he's unable to. That whole situation was a little weird in terms of him going to the hospital and all that. You got Boston complaining about the medical treatment, the NHL coming out and saying it's something we're going to have to look at moving forward. So, but not having McAvoy, not having Quinn Hughes, and then not having Matthew Tkachuk essentially for the last two games. He didn't play last game. He hardly played, or he missed a bunch of time in the game against Canada the first go around, after injuring his groin. I'll be interested to see how much time he misses coming up with the Florida Panthers. I mean, there's no way he can play right off the bat. He's going to have to miss some time. So for him to only be able to play 6 minutes and change in last night's game, that's a big loss for the Americans. You take Quinn Hughes out of the equation, McAvoy out of the equation, it's a big difference. But you could say the same thing for Canada too. They didn't have Alex Pietrangelo, who pulled out of the tournament before the tournament started. You don't have Josie Theodore or Shea Theodore. I call him Josie Theodore all the time. Shea Theodore, the defenseman from Vegas, teammate of Alex Pietrangelo. You look at Josh Morrissey. He was unable to go last night. He's sick. So, again, every team's dealing with it. Every team's dealing with it. I do think that when you look at the game last night and you look at Canada, for example, I mentioned no Morrissey, and you get Thomas Harley in there. Harley, much like Parayko, like these are not names that you heard about by most pundits as they were coming up with their mock drafts for Canada's roster. Everyone had Chris Tanev and all these other guys. No one even mentioned Thomas Harley, and he came in. He's a young kid. What is he, 22 years old, maybe 23 years old? He's 23. And the way that he played, man, was commendable. Although he was born in New York, he technically should be an American, but I think he was left off a World Junior team or something. And then he became good, and then he had the option to play with Canada. He played with Canada in the World Juniors. Hell of a player. He's got some Canadian bloodlines in the family. But anyway, great tournament. Jack Hughes, where were you though, man? I would have liked to see some offense from some of these guys. These are the guys, when you talk about Team USA's roster entering the tournament, those are the players that you think about that'll put Team USA over the top. And I just didn't see a whole lot from Jack Hughes. And we said the same thing about Marner and some of these guys. And Chris Kreider didn't even play. I mean, he didn't play the first two games, scores a goal in his first shift in the third game. They keep him in there. Controversial decision. No Kyle Connor, one of the best snipers in the game. He could have ended the game in one shot. Give him one chance. I was surprised that they didn't put Connor in the lineup. I mean, he's too good of a player to not play. He'll be here in St. Louis, by the way, tomorrow. So I'll be curious to see what kind of mood that he's in, Kyle Connor. I don't expect him to be too happy, so that's probably not good news for the Blues. But strange decision to dress Chris Kreider and then only play him like 5 or 6 minutes. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you're going to play him, then I get it. First Community brings us hockey sense each and every week. David Backes, two-time Olympian, former captain of the St. Louis Blues. He's going to join me. Get his take on the game. Looking forward to that. He's expected to be poolside. He's in Florida right now. Should be a fun conversation coming up with him. Hey, small business lending. Are you a small business owner? I'm talking to you then. You ready to take your business to the next level? First Community, they've been in business for over 90 years. They want to see your business grow. They're right here in town. You can deal with them face to face. They offer competitive rates on commercial loans, lines of credit, commercial credit, designed to help your business thrive. So check it out. First Community, call them today. Ask them about the Little Blues program as well. They've got wedding loans. They've got all these different things going on. Go meet with a banker, one of the specialists, one of the experts at First Community. They've been around for 90 years. You know they're doing something good. And they've got bank locations all over St. Louis, so check that out. Four Hands Brewing Company taking St. Louis hockey to the next level, one craft beer at a time, including that mango lemonade hard seltzer, baby. The Cam and Strick Podcast hard seltzer. Pick that up anywhere you get your Four Hands Brewing Company products. They've got that beautiful tasting room in downtown St. Louis, the incredible new location in Kirkwood. That's date night right there. They've got the fireplaces and everything outside. Maybe a little bit too cold to sit outside now, but it won't be long before you're enjoying that. Kind of has like a wooded campfire vibe to it, Colorado vibe to it. The location in Chesterfield is incredible. The whole family can go hang out there, man. They've got the big lawn, the big screen television. Kids can run around. So that place is incredible, too, out there in Chesterfield. Blue Note Roofing. Call my good buddy, the one and only Dave Novak today, 314-920-5713. You looking for gutters? Hey, Cam keeps telling us that tornado season's around the corner, so you may be needing that new roof before you know it. When you need roofing, you call my boy David Novak. Blue Note Roofing, 314-920-5713. Look for the big yellow truck driving around with the blue notes all over it. Soffit, fascia, gutters, siding, windows, they do it all. Roofing, that's what they specialize in. David Novak, big hockey fan too. I've had him in studio. He'll talk pucks with you. Call him today, 314-920-5713 for Blue Note Roofing. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Download their app and get all those great deals that are so good they call them steals. Yes, sir. They got a ton of locations. Some have drive-thrus, and many of them have curbside pickup, so you don't even have to get out of your car. But you can do all your shopping from your app right there with Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Don't sleep on those party supplies, too. You got parties coming up, birthday parties, graduation parties, whatever it is. Get everything you need over there at Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. All right, this is Hockey Sense brought to you by First Community. Let's go poolside. I think he's going to be poolside. He's in Florida regardless. David Backes, he joins me next as we continue to break down the Four Nations final. USA, Canada. Congratulations, Canada. We've got a USA Olympian joining us next. David Backes, don't go anywhere. All right, let's head out Harborside. You never know who we're going to find out there in Florida. The one and only David Backes, former captain of the Blues, two-time USA Olympian, represented USA Hockey on a number of occasions. Former Lincoln star, former Minnesota high school star, and now he's enjoying retirement. You're working on your tan right now, David. How you doing?
No tans. I got a little skin cancer a couple years ago, so no more sun exposure. We're avoiding that.
How'd that happen? After living in Minnesota and St. Louis all those years?
I'm a pale kid from Minnesota, right in the middle of my back. So get your skin checked. But yeah, I'm clear, free and clear now, and trying to enjoy the sun without being baked and burned by it.
So are you able to be in the sun at all? You can't have any sun exposure to your back, or how does that work?
It's all long gone, but it's just one of those things where when you're, especially our generation, not smart and doing stupid things like tanning beds in high school, and then catches up with you. So now I'm much more intelligent about covering my skin with clothing or sunscreen and taking care of the things you got to take care of as you get old. 40. It's not like 20 anymore.
Did you ever have the frosted tips on your hair?
Absolutely. You see my draft picture?
I thought so, man. Yeah, you make some interesting decisions. Everyone remembers David Backes. I mean, leading up to the Olympics a few years back, how you're fighting all the Canadians in succession. I think you fought Taves and Corey Perry and Rick Nash, which is It's amazing that I was able to actually think about. I'm just remembering that as we go. It got a lot of attention. What'd you think of the intensity of these games at the Four Nations between the two countries?
I loved it. I thought it was, it was one of those tournaments where I think it could have gone either way. It could have looked more like a World Cup of Hockey 2016, where it was kind of All-Star Game-esque and guys were going through the motions a little bit. Or it could have looked more like, you know, the what it looked like, which was intense and guys cared and they wanted to win and they were willing to fight and scrap and claw and lay it all out there, block shots. And I think it was a phenomenal spectacle for the league. It was everything they could have hoped for and more. And, with the finale into OT with the two North American teams, it was a huge success. And other than the wrong team winning, I think it was a huge success.
What's it like being in a locker room with all those great players? What are those conversations like, David?
For me, I think it's different. It was different than it was for a lot of these guys. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there was a lot of development program connections between these guys. A lot of guys that have played together in the past and had common, experiences. And, if they lived in Ann Arbor together and played for a couple years together, they're buddies. They're good buddies. And they're, just reuniting more than they're coming together and trying to form this team of pieces that have not played together and trying to, connect with each other real quick and get those commonalities. So that's what I think was different a little bit in 2010 at the Olympics and 2014. Probably a reason why World Championships are really important for a lot of different reasons, but to keep that continuity going, to build that, I think these tournaments in between Olympics, now that the NHL's back in the Olympics, will be beneficial for a lot of these guys to, have those connections, have common terminology, know each other going into it. I think that helped me going into the Olympics, having participated in a couple World Championships, and just great hockey and the intensity, like you said. I think another contrast I've done in my head is the World Cup of Hockey in 2016 was a pre-season tournament. So it was like everyone's gearing up for the regular season. No one's really in their stride. And if you recall back, which I do, the exhibition game we played against Canada was intense, like the first game US-Canada played. There wasn't fights, but it was like we were built to absolutely bulldoze teams. And we went out there and we did that to Canada in Ottawa. And we're like, man, we're going to do this. And this is going to be the intensity of the tournament. And I don't know what changed, if it was just too hard for some of the guys or what, but we never played that hard or that rough or that intense the rest of the tournament and didn't win another game. So mid-season tournament, I think, was a great idea. Now you're going to get the naysayers say, well, guys, Shea Theodore breaks a wrist, or, Matthew Tkachuk has what other ailment he's got, or Charlie McAvoy separates his shoulder. It's true. And it sucks to lose those guys, but that easily could have happened in game 64 of the regular season, and they'd have been out for the rest of the year anyway. Or, there's still these benefits of having international hockey on a stage, introduced to the masses. I have buddies that, that don't follow hockey saying, "Are you watching this game?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm watching this game. This is incredible." There was inclement weather at the time, and so picture in picture on my TV, I was watching like a tiny little television, but I was face to face with the TV. I'm like, Kelly Matthews fighting, now Brady's fighting, oh, there's another fight, this is incredible. And I was so jacked up for that game. I was texting Walt, and I was not going to miss the game last night for anything.
You lived in Walt's house, and you remember Matthew and Brady, man, how young they were at the time, and obviously know the family and like we all do. It's amazing now, see them do what they're doing on the big stage. What's it like for you, though? I mean, living in the house, that's a special connection that you have with the family.
Yeah, it is. And I've told a lot of people that they were little boys. They were like my kids' age when I was living with them. And we used to go down in their in their basement and play in their little hockey rink. And sometimes I can make those two boys cry. And not that I was proud of that, but I've got that feather in my cap now that they're two NHL All-Stars leading the way for USA, dropping their gloves at the opening draw. I almost felt like a proud dad, even though they're not my kids when that was happening. Like, they're representing the country and giving it all they have. And yeah, the connection to the family, the connection to some of the other players that I played with. I was proud of the team, and one goal away with all the chances in overtime. Probably should have won it. And I think it sets up a great, pre-story for the Olympics coming up in just 1 year.
The fans, obviously, and your little guys right there, tell them we say hello, whatever. With the fights from Matthew and Brady, I mean, listen, it got so much attention. I think that's what brought in a lot of the attention from the non-hockey fans. And I'm trying to think when the last time USA Hockey had that moment. And it may be in Sochi. You were there when Oshie had all the shootout attempts, and that got a lot of attention outside of just the hockey fan. And obviously the Olympics are bigger than four nations. You can speak to that, having played in World Cups and World Championships. There's nothing like the Olympics. But what do you think this has done for hockey? I mean, can you expect the fans who were so interested in a event like this to continue to watch NHL hockey, or does it bring out a different emotion when you're representing your country?
It certainly brings out a different emotion. I think there's, I've contrasted it a little bit in my head. I'm like, why was the World Cup in 2016 kind of like a meh kind of tournament? And then this Four Nations thing seems to be a huge success and a big splash. And what I've come to is that the timing of it, the World Cup, again, was a pre-season tournament where it was kind of like guys weren't in the groove of playing in the regular season, where their intensity is already high, and now they're putting on their country's uniform, and it's like, everyone's laying on the line doing whatever it takes. And so that, I think the Four Nations had an edge there. My other thing is, I think being on ESPN again and being on ABC on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, and the exposure for that's what the international hockey, to me, has a huge opportunity to grow the game, because the exposure that it's seen on regular networks. You're cheering for your country, so it's nationwide rather than cheering for your local team or the team that's in your state. And then, the show that was put on, yes, you lost a few star players along the way to injury, but at the same time, the exposure and the growth of the game and what that tournament just did for everyone. I think if the U.S. wins, I don't know if you can put them in the same sort of category as the 80 Olympic team because of the amateur status going against the unlikely climb that they had. But you could have had the U.S. back on top of the international hockey scene again. And just like 2010 Olympics, it's overtime against the team that's carried the torch for a long time, and it's one goal away from breaking that open. And the chances that U.S. had in the overtime, it's not like it was back and forth. The U.S. unequivocally dominated the play in the overtime, and a D-zone draw that, a little bit of a brain lapse, and it's certainly the wrong player to leave alone in the slot, and he puts a pinpoint shot in the upper corner. It's over. But the U.S. is right there, and it's only a matter of time. And I think it's hopefully lighting fires that it's our time to push through that threshold to get on top of the hockey world internationally. And there's another chance in the World Championships coming up. Hopefully, a lot of these players, if they're not in the Stanley Cup playoffs, take that invitation to again represent their country, to grow some continuity, maybe win a World Championship going into the Olympics, and then have that feather in your cap that we care about this as much as the Europeans, as much as the Canadians, and this matters to us, that we're gonna win some gold medals and not be satisfied with silver or bronze or just participating.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get the top players to go to the World Championships, which isn't always easy. I felt like we saw some of that last year, knowing we were going to have the Four Nations this year. You saw Brady Tkachuk and some others go over to the World Championships. I'm curious though, and you're right with the injuries. I mean, you look at Canada's back end. They didn't have Pietrangelo. They didn't have Theodore. They didn't have Morrissey last night. Finland was decimated on the back end, so they'll look different in the Olympics when you get Haskin and all the injuries. Not having McAvoy obviously, and Matthew Tkachuk being unavailable. Quinn Hughes will make a huge difference for Team USA. But I'm curious. In an NHL game, you see Nathan MacKinnon and McDavid, and they look like they're going 3 times the speed as everybody else. I mean, they're just galloping up and down the ice. These end-to-end rushes are incredible. And we didn't see a ton of that with the amount of talent that's on the ice from both these countries. How much different is the level of just the ability that's on the ice between these two teams that kind of cancel out some of these superstar players? I mean, Jack Hughes had 1 assist the entire tournament.
Yeah, there's no easy shifts, and never an easy shift in the NHL. But Connor McDavid's not getting matched up against the team's, second, third, fourth line in this tournament. It wasn't a drop from this, first to the second to the third line, and everyone checks. Everyone's bought into playing defense on every shift. I would say it's much more like playoffs than it is against the regular season. You watch the regular season and Nathan MacKinnon gets a puck, at the tops of his circles and he's winding it up. Everyone's saying, oh no. And I was saying that in my hotel room last night with my family. McDavid would get the puck at his tops of the circles. I'm like, oh boy, who's going to angle him off? Who's going to, check this guy? And in short order, he ran out of space and he was giving the puck up, or someone had a great stick that was taking it from him. So you weren't seeing that time and space. You weren't seeing them freewheeling and having all that, open ice. And I think that's a testament to how great the best on best tournaments can be. And you saw it all tournament long. McKinnon had 4 goals. He was the leading goal scorer, and it wasn't like he was dancing through everyone. Even the goal last night, he's rolling over the top of the circles and he's like, I'm gonna just throw this to the net, and it sees its way to the top corner. But it wasn't like his typical, through everyone, dancing around all the way to the net, forehand, backhand, forehand, top shelf, and he's smiling all the way home. Like it was just a percentage play and a volume play, and he happened to have more shots than other people where they went in. So I loved it. I think the quality of player that was on the ice for all 4 nations was extreme and amazing, and the skill level too. I would watch Jack Hughes and I'm like, hey, he's tiny. He's not a huge man, but his ability to control the puck on Boston Garden ice, which is notoriously not awesome, and the way he's settling it down and making plays. All the guys, Dylan Larkin was a beast last night, and was all tournament, and just guys with skill level that's absolutely through the roof. And then you get them in those competitive situations and you see what makes them not just great skill players, but great hockey players. And I was, national pride, hockey pride, it was all through the roof for me to just be like, this is what the game needs and what it's all about. And I think it also highlighted the myth that the NHL has had from, since 2014, where the best on best tournament was the World Cup of Hockey in 2016, which was kind of a flop, but they missed out on Olympics and international play for far too long. And those guys need to be back there to represent their countries, to have those experiences, and to just give the game the platform internationally that it needs and that people want to see it.
All right. So you were a Selke finalist, which you were never going to win with Bergeron and Datsuk in the league, David. I mean, they were going to win it every year, right? But to be included and be a finalist is a testament to how good of a two-way player you were. You were exceptional. But people have thrown Austin Matthews in that category. And if you don't watch him every game, you're like, okay, why? He scores a lot of goals and whatever. And then you see him in this tournament. And yeah, he didn't score a lot of goals, but he made more plays tracking back and breaking up plays and using the length of his stick to, intercept seam passes and strip pucks, lift sticks. I mean, from an effort standpoint, you can't knock him, man. This guy really brought it and he bought into playing a two-way game, didn't he?
He did. First to the Selke finalists. Bergeron won it that year, and playing with him then in Boston, we had a couple of gatherings at his house where I found my way into his vault, and he caught me trying to take that trophy out of his vault a couple times. So, that's all in good humor. But
I love
yeah,
it. I
Austin
love it.
Matthews, I think to me, he reminds me a little bit of Ovechkin, where early in his career, one dimensional, only cared about scoring goals. And I don't know if it's coaching evolution or what, but or the C on his chest that he all of a sudden realizes scoring 69 goals. And I think McDavid's, obviously been an all world player, 200, more of a 200-foot player his whole career. Um, but is realizing that 69 goals is great and gives me this Rocket Richard trophy. But I want to win. I want to win a championship, and I want to be in the playoffs. And I want to go deep in the playoffs. And to do that, I need to block shots, and I need to be responsible defensively, and I need to play a 200-foot game, and I need to show everyone on my team, whether it's Mitch Marner or the young guy that just came up, that this is our culture, this is how we play, and this is what we need to do to be successful. And Ovi started doing it and won a championship, and now he's still not Spelke worthy, but he's 200-foot player that does all the little things, and he's willing to bang bodies and play a well-rounded game to help his team win. And Austin Matthews now is cluing into that. I will also say of Austin Matthews that on the ice he looks like he fits in. He's a huge man. Like he is a beast among men. And even playing him when we were in Boston in the playoffs, like, not that he was sleepy, but he didn't have that, like, I don't know if it was confidence or swagger or what, that just, I'm going to take over this game and grab this puck and I'm going to go through you and I'm going to shove it in the back of your net. Because he's that big of a dude. Like, I'm a big guy. He's bigger than I am. He skates better than I did. He's way more skilled, and he's got finish for days. He can be that dominant player that, could have been last night, the play that he has on his stick and Bennington gets a blocker on it. But that, to me, that would have been his moment to be like, that confidence on the international stage of like,
Yeah.
I not only belong here, and I feel like he knows he belongs here, but I am the guy for the US that scores 69, 70 goals a year. And when there's the game on their line, it's on my stick, and I'm gonna make it happen. I hope he gets, and I believe he'll get another opportunity to do that. It's just, it could have been last night, and Bennington in that dang arena with making save after save also gave some PTSD memories flashing back to me from watching Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals in there.
Yeah, I bet. Same rink. And you're right, Austin Matthews. I mean, no goals in the tournament, and as much as you love the two-way play, they need him to be a difference maker, obviously, and put the puck in the net. Walk me through his responsibility, though, David, as a center. And you came into the NHL, I think, as a winger. You transitioned into a center, which is not easy to do, and you were really good at it, obviously. And you still scored, right? You had a lot of PK responsibility. You always were a shutdown guy. You always got matched up against the other team's number one center every single night, but you always found a way to be on the plus side and score goals, too. In a face-off there, he lost McDavid. Does he just have to stay with him there? What's his responsibility?
Well, some teams will do it differently. Some teams are center on center all the way. Other teams hand that center off to the net front defenseman and then let the center flex out to the corner to force a puck. And I think if that play happens in the first or second period, everyone knows their responsibility, and they're just, it's a nothing play, it never gets out of the corner. Or as you saw so many times, there was a defenseman with a stick on stick right in the slot and nothing comes of it for Canada. I think being in the overtime period, shorter bench for the Americans, there was a little fatigue factor with a little mental lapse, and in short order, again, it's the wrong guy with the puck on a stick in the slot. I hate that it happened. And to me, in those situations, I think you shut down the important ice, which is in front, and leave the guy in the corner. Make sure you got the slot taken care of before you flex out and you try to pressure the puck. But easy to say from sitting in a hotel room, watching it on TV. Those guys absolutely laid it all on the ice. They've got nothing to be ashamed of, and that game easily could have gone the other way. And, unfortunately, it's becoming a little bit of a redundant story of right there in overtime. Should have had that game in the championship game, and Canada got the goal. But give yourselves enough opportunities to do that. I believe Billy Guerin put together one heck of a team, and this is going to this is going to be a great lead into the Olympics, and I'm hopeful for a U.S. Olympic gold in Italy.
All right, a few more things for you, and then I'll let you go. I love talking hockey with you, though. I'm curious what you knew of Jacob Slavin coming into the tournament, how much you had paid attention to him, and your impressions of him that you're leaving the tournament with.
On the ice, I feel like he was always just annoying and, one of those defensemen with a great stick that's long, that doesn't make many mistakes, and then he's on the ice a ton. So you don't have a lot of opportunity to just avoid him. Watching the game last night, I was astonished with the quality of chance he was negating time after time, the quality of player he was stifling after, Canada's forward group was ridiculous, and it seemed like he was always on the ice against their best players. And when they started to generate something through the forward group or maybe against his partner, he was always there to shut it down. And so I think it was a bit of a coming out party for him, who plays in a smaller market that's maybe a little unsung with the Carolina Hurricanes. As a person, I know him a bit. He's a quality human that, if you had to pick someone for your daughter to marry, it'd be someone like Jacob Slavin. So I think that's the kind of resume he's built and kind of person he is. And so, hopefully this puts him a little more in the spotlight, and he can be appreciated for all the things that he does on and off the ice.
Yeah. Cam and I have had him on the podcast too. He's a great human being, like you said. How well did you know Bennington before you left St. Louis? I mean, do you remember seeing him in training camps? And his performance last night, he's interesting, David, because he's such a big game goalie. He'll go down as one of the better big game goalies of his era. Last night, obviously putting that on his resume helps him do that. I mean, he made some incredible saves. A save on Brady Tkachuk in overtime. He made a couple saves on Austin Matthews in overtime, including a glove save where Matthews typically scores from. He was incredible, man. He just rises to the occasion. What do you remember of him the first time you saw him versus, how he evolved to when you obviously faced him in the Stanley Cup final?
Yeah, we were in a couple training camps together in St. Louis, but nothing, I don't know, maybe even a preseason game we played together, and I don't recall it as being anything special that, has registered permanently in my soft brain that I have. And so when he got called up and started making the run in 2019 with the Blues, as I was hearing they were going to tear the team down and start over, all of a sudden he became a story. I'm like, I do kind of remember him a little bit from my time in St. Louis, but I don't remember him being capable of doing any of this. And then obviously the run and the Stanley Cup championship in 19, and then continuing to hold that, standard a little bit, some ups and downs. And you're right, the idea of consistency through the regular season, whether he's distracted, the idea of him chasing players around the ice and getting fiery shows you some competitiveness, but also maybe some lack of focus at times. But in the big games, obviously in the Stanley Cup Finals, seen it firsthand for a team I'm playing against, playing with, then for a team I'm cheering for last night, and a few other occasions when he's focused and he's on. He's one of those goalies where you're like, it affects your body language, and as an opposing player, you're like, okay, what kind of chance do we need in order to beat this guy? And that gets in your psyche a little bit and changes the way you play, which then maybe you saw U.S. overpassing a little bit at times last night. Maybe Matt Boldy a couple times where it's like he's a goal scorer, he's in a grade A chance, and he's trying to go seam rather than putting the puck even 5-hole and seeing what happens if it goes in or creates some rebound chances. It just creates a scrum in front. Those, I think, maybe more of those chances would have been better for the U.S., but it's easy to say on the day after when the result is what the result is.
All right, last thing for you. In your Olympic experience, I just felt like even in this tournament, when Team USA plays Canada the first time in the tournament, and they get so up for it. I mean, it's almost like they approach it like it's a championship game, as it should. It's USA versus Canada. And then you have another game like in this tournament where it was a meaningless game. You're sitting guys are unable to play. It's against Sweden. Now you have to emotionally get back up to that level in a championship game. Did you guys have success against Canada in pre-medal round games where maybe you won and all of a sudden you have to find that emotion again? I mean, that's difficult to do. I don't know how you go about, altering your approach to these games, because they are meaningful whenever the two countries, clash against one another.
Yeah, we had a similar storyline in 2010. We beat them in the prelims, and then had the rematch in the gold medal game. Emotionally, though, I don't think when it's U.S. Canada, there's no emotional letdown. If you're saying there's any dip in that, then you're either not human, you're not a competitive athlete, because those are the games that you need no Red Bull before the game. You don't need to, if anything, you need more rest because you're so jacked up. You can't sleep the night before. Your pregame naps kind of, you're hoping to be distracted enough by some mindless TV show that you can just shut it down for 30 minutes to, then be prepared for your game. You're thinking about it all day. If there's anything, after talking to Hitch, I think what Canada does well is they try to normalize the games and keep it as another game where we need to go out and do what we need to do. And for US, it becomes something maybe larger than what it actually is or should be in the athletes' minds of like, yes, this is US Canada and we haven't won since, a gold since 96, or beat them in a best on best tournament since 96, or a gold medal since 1980. It's not the country riding on your shoulders as much as the media will make that a huge fantasy storyline. What Canada does is say, hey, we're good hockey players, we're going to go out there, we're going to win this game, and we don't need to do anything more than win this game. We'll let everyone else write the storylines and blow this up into a huge thing. Same way, the U.S. needs to be, because I think that it all of a sudden becomes the pressure on them. It's the Boston Red Sox that have a curse on them and haven't won forever. And when they get to that level, it becomes something bigger than it needs to be. And maybe that's a little bit of pressure. But I also think that the performance doesn't necessarily reflect that. Like, I don't think guys were squeezing their sticks. I think they played awesome. They were right there. They have a 2-1 lead. A quick little breakdown and a short side goal by Sam Bennett ties it. If that doesn't happen going into the third, maybe there's, someone can get that third goal for the U.S. and start to build that lead, and never, Canada doesn't ever see the light of day, but they're a great team too, and they responded. So that's my one maybe suggestion. And other than that, I think it's going to happen, and we just need to keep the best on best series go, because they're meaningful, they matter, and it's great hockey.
What are you doing now? Are you going to get back into hockey, David? I mean, I know you're raising your family and whatnot, but I know you love the game, and I'm sure you miss it a little bit. Who's there?
That's Dawson. That's my 7-year-old.
What's up,
Yep.
Dawson?
I get on the ice with him and try to impart all my knowledge on him. So he's pretty good at going right to the front of the net and hacking and whacking. That's
there you go.
I was taught well, and I'm passing that knowledge on. We opened a couple restaurants great after we retired in Minnesota, and then sold them shortly thereafter. Then we went through a little move, had some family life occurrences go on. Currently nursing my wife, tore her Achilles playing tennis right before Christmas. So she's been immobilized and trying to just kind of come up for air and then figure out what's next for us. But yeah, maybe something in the hockey world. Finally, it probably took me 18 months to 2 years to start to miss it a lot and really find my love again for like getting involved in some regard. And then now I skate every Tuesday. There's a group of guys that skate together, and I go out there and have just a blast getting on the ice again. I'm gonna have to wear a Canada jersey, by the way, on Tuesday for their skate. But Ryan Smith had to wear a USA jersey last week, so a little tit for tat, and able to, put some good wagers on. I love the game again, and just trying to be around for the kids a little bit more in this season of life. And when they're sick of me, then we'll move on to the next thing.
I love it.
Stella wants a shout out too.
What's up,
We got her
Stella?
9-year-old
We'll
in
give
the
you
house. Yeah. Swimming spectacular. She likes the water when it's in liquid form a little more than frozen form.
Yeah, well, we all do. We all do. We all do.
Yes.
All right, David. Thanks for doing this. Enjoy the family time. I know you. I took you away for a few minutes. I appreciate it. Wanted to get you on. Always good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you. Have a great day, Strix, and be well. Yes.
We'll be in touch, man. Take care. See ya. See you, buddy.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed David Backes. Hey, he's one of my all-time favorites, man. He's very smart. Very smart. Knows the game. He should be working in hockey, but he's also enjoying the family time, so I get it, you know. Zach Werenski, who had him leading the tournament in scoring. That's why I put together my all-tournament team. I know some people had an issue with maybe Werenski being on there. That's why I put him on there. It's not just the one game. He didn't have his best game in the final, but he had a really good tournament. I thought Jacob Slavin was a no-brainer to be on my all-tournament group of starting D. And listen, it was all Canadian and all American who earned the spots on the all-tournament team. So I had Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, who ended up being named MVP of the Four Nations tournament, along with Brady Tkachuk. Those were my three forwards. And you could have made an argument for Jake Gensel, who was exceptional in the first couple of games, scored some real big goals for Team USA. And, you know, certainly some other players that were worthy, Sidney Crosby being one of them. Michael Granlund was great. Crosby actually had more points than McKinnon, but with McKinnon being named the tournament MVP, I just felt like I had to put him on there. And, you know, with Crosby, 3 of his 5 points were in the first game. Did score the 1 goal, the empty netter, which was huge against Finland. I could have easily put him on there. It's just so interesting when you look at the numbers. And so that's where I went. And then I had Brady Tkachuk join. The Brady Tkachuk was fantastic. This was Brady Tkachuk's coming out party, too. As much as it was for Jacob Slavin, this was a coming out party for Brady Tkachuk. Brady Tkachuk has established himself as a superpower in the world of hockey. He is absolutely incredible. And he certainly was deserving of a first-team Stricky nod. Brady Tkachuk, Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, Zach Werenski, Jacob Slavin, and then Jordan Binnington, the best goaltender in the tournament, was absolutely incredible in the championship game of performance for the ages for Jordan Binnington. Couldn't be happier for him. I wouldn't think he'll play on Saturday against Winnipeg. Hellebuck, you just never know. He plays all the time. Kyle Connor not playing in the game. I mean, there's going to be some interesting storylines heading into Saturday night. By the way, Saturday night's game is going to be over the air. It's going to be on Channel 4, not on your traditional FanDuel Sports Network. So it'll be on the local CBS affiliate. If you're outside of the St. Louis area, check that out because it'll have a little bit of a different look. It's going to be produced by the Blues, and it's going to be a Blues show. So I'm looking forward to being a part of that coming up on Saturday night when the Blues resume play against the Winnipeg Jets. As always, Hockey Sense is brought to you by First Community. We love our friends over at First Community. Glenn Barks, everybody from the top on down. They are the best when it comes to supporting hockey here in our community. Very few do it better than First Community. Blues youth hockey and Blues hockey in general, man, they support hockey at all levels. They are the presenting sponsor of the Blues Hall of Fame. I'm on the committee. I love voting for that. They put that on. The Blues youth hockey, the Little Blues program is presented by First Community. So if you want to get your son or daughter introduced to the game of hockey, no better way to do it. And I mean that there is no better way. There's no alternative than to do it with Little Blues. So be sure to ask about that program. I talked about the small business lending. They've got that wedding loan if you want to put money away to help pay for some of these deposits and these down payments that you have to make. You may think the wedding's 18 months away, but you got to start paying for stuff now. So go to firstcommunity.com and get everything you need to know. Lordo's Diamonds taking St. Louis hockey to the next level, one engagement ring at a time. Did you just pop the question? Are you looking to pop the question? Head into Lordo's Diamonds. Mike and Jimmy Lordo will take great care of you. You got Pat, you got everybody there. I mean, decades and decades and decades of knowledge. So if you're walking in there with a $100,000 budget or a $500 or less budget, they will treat you exactly the same. The best customer service, great people, best quality, best selection. They are the best. Lordo's Diamonds, right there in the heart of Ladue. 314-432-8008. LordosDiamonds.com is the phone number. Jamal Mayers typically joins us, and he's unable to join us today. He's on assignment. He's in Quebec for the Pee Wee Quebec tournament, so we wish them all the best. He's always brought to you by Bartolino's, the 5 restaurants, Bartolino's South, Bartolino's Osteria, Chris's Pancake and Dining. Chris is at the docket, as well as Bartolino's Twin Oaks. I've been to that one. That is incredible, too. They've got all the lasting relationships with customers, man. People have been going in there for decades and decades. 50 years in business. Only 2 places to dine, at home or at the Bartolino's family of restaurants. Also, Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. If you're needing new tires, and this is the time of year to do that, make sure you have good tires. Stop on into Dobbs. Best customer service. I'll take care of you there at the Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. In, up, fixed, out. The same day. They get you in, they get you out. Find the location nearest you. Of course, our friends over at Four Hands Brewing Company, Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. David Novak and Blue Note Roofing, 314-920-5713. 314-520-5713. David Novak. Look for that big yellow truck. If you want to get in touch with any of the sponsors, or if you want to become a sponsor of the show, just hit me up, send me a message, and I can help you get in touch with anybody, or certainly bring you on board. We'd love to have you. There's no doubt about that. But call David Novak. Gutters, siding, soffit fascia, of course, new roof. We've got some crazy weather coming. Make sure you're protected. Get that new roof on your house and do it today. For Aiden, for David Backes, for everybody affiliated with this edition of Hockey Sense, I'm Andy Strickland, reminding you to keep your head up and your stick on the ice. Congratulations to Canada. Congratulations to USA Hockey. Congratulations to the NHL on putting together a great tournament. It was a lot of fun watching. Now it's back to the NHL. Looking forward to it. Back-to-back games coming up this weekend. Winnipeg, then Colorado. The Blues also play at home next Tuesday, so a 3-game homestand. 6 of the next 7, I believe, are at home at the Enterprise Center, so hope to see you out there. Appreciate the support, as always. Hope you enjoyed this show. For everybody here at Half Coast Studios, I'm Andy Strickland. Until next time, have a great weekend, everybody.